Hi guys, it's Scott here from Radio Shop. What we're going to do today is talk you through the MOTOTRBO radio software CPS 2.0. We'll do the basic installation of it and a basic overview. First of all, you're going to download the file. Please note that the file is quite large. This one in particular, this is the latest version in November 2025, is 720 megs, so I suggest you connect to your Wi-Fi at home and not, tether through your phone. What we're going to do is unzip the files, save it somewhere easy on your desktop. If you notice, the CPS is 2.1.53.167. There's a lot of versions of CPS 2. There was a lot of glitches and errors with it as well, so they keep updating it. Make sure before you do anything you get the latest version. If you want the latest version, you can click in the link below in the comments, and we've got access to the latest version, which we keep updating regularly when they do come out. So what we're going to do is go to the installation file. What sometimes it does is it requests you to actually install additional features on your Windows. You don't have to pay for it, it'll just install updates, certain features you do need. Select the language you require. There, your languages are standard. We're just going to go for English, United States. While this is installing, a quick one to note is if you go down to your power options, I'm using Windows 11 today, make sure you have your power mode when you're using the software on best performance. If you have it on power saving or power efficiency or balance, what sometimes happens is the CPS struggles when you're reading or programming a lot of radios. Even if it's a couple of 30 seconds longer, if you're programming 100 radios, that's a lot of time you're wasting, when you can just increase the performance of your computer and it'll work a lot more efficient. Read the terms and conditions. I always install it to default, then that way you can find it. Now what I have while that's installing is at the top I have an old CPS 16 file from one of my radios. I actually have the updated version of it as well, and as you can see it's just changed now into CPS. It's been recognised by CPS 2.0. They have actually changed the file format. On previous versions of CPS 2 it would have saved it as CPS 2 file. Now it's actually an XCTB file it saves it as. What I would always recommend doing as well is restarting your computer afterwards. There's two ways to open up the CPS. You can use the desktop icon, or you can open one of the actual files direct and it'll open it up. When opening the Motorola CPS, if you've opened it direct, it won't open a file direct for obvious reasons. To open one, simply locate it on your computer. I'll show you a little quick trick with the legacy ones as well. So this is an old CPS 16 code plug, so we can open this on this software. It allows you to do it. Once opened, it actually allows you to save it as a new version. Just go to Save As. It will now save it as a CPS 2 file. Type test there. If we go back to the screen, you'll see there's the file which we've just opened. Here's the new one, which is the test one, which is CPS 2. So then you can use both files. You can obviously use that in CPS 2, and if you want to use the old legacy, you still can. I would always back up whichever software you're using, whichever code plugs. First thing I always do is read a radio. I keep the original code plug, that way I can install it back there. Say I want to sell it later on eBay or wherever, I can restore the radio back to default. Looking at the navigation bars, this is the information from the radio itself, based on the code plug. This is your menu tab, and this is your action bar. What you'll find is your action bar is basically key features in your menu tab. First one's file, self-explanatory. You've got open, save, save as. Another good one's report, which a lot of people forget about. Once you create a code plug, you can actually do a report and it will save all the information on that radio. So you can print that report out or give a customer handout, and it'll actually tell you the information. And the good thing is it'll actually show you a diagram of the actual radio we're using, which you don't see in the tab which we used to do. Originally, this bit here, device information, you would normally see what type of radio it was, which you don't get anymore. You've got to find out through the part number. So there's your channel summary. It'll go into all your details of how you configured it. This is a default radio, so it's just set as default. Next one is, you've got the device tab. The device tab allows you to read, it allows you to write, it allows you to clone and clone express. Read, you're going to read the radio. Connect the cable, then you're going to read it. Write is when you're going to send, after you've read the radio and you want to put that code plug after you've edited it back into the radio, you have to write to it. Write can only be achieved if the device serial numbers match. If they don't match, that's when you would then use clone. And then the advantage with Clone Express is, when we get onto radio IDs in a minute, Clone Express doesn't send the IDs to the radio, it leaves that. It will only just send the channel information and all the other settings. Next one's update. If you want to update the firmware, you would then connect your radio. It would then give you an option of if there's any firmware installed on your actual PC to update it. Same with recovery, you can restore it back. Next one's your licensing. If you buy any additional license like AES encryption, there's tons of new features with the radios which you can unlock and buy license keys for. You know, capacity plus licensing and everything. You would then go to this and register and activate the actual devices itself. Next one's tool. You can basically protect the archive, import voice announcements, change the settings. If you've installed it in English and you decide you want to put it into French, you can just select the option and it'll change it all back to French when it next boots up. It's not too bad if you're flicking between languages. I'm going to leave it on English. Next one's the Help tab. The one advantage of CPS 2.0 and Legacy compared to other softwares is they've always been quite handy. If you're stuck or you're unsure of any information, if you highlight something and go to the Help tab, it'll tell you. It'll also tell you at the bottom in a minute on this section, which we'll go through. But it's good if you're unsure of what anything is, or what you know what I mean. What does frequency range mean? What's the firmware? Anything like that, you just type it in the search bar, it'll tell you, or select it and it'll tell you. He says famously. We'll go there, Help, contents and thingy. It'll tell you the Codeplugs version. It's quite self-explanatory. It's quite good actually, to be honest. Other softwares you just got to guess what it means. Next one is your action bar. Your action bar are obviously the open and saver from the file tab. The device tab are these four here. And then your licensings are these two here. Moving on to the actual details of the radio. So we've opened the Codeplug, or we've read the radio. This is what we do. This will be, the menu option will come up. It's all set in folders which expand, which is quite handy. It enables you to go through the options and change them. Yeah. The key options we want to look at is device information. You can find out what your radio is, what model it is. Important thing to note is when you're putting a code plug onto another radio, the model number has to match. So if it's a DP4400E UHF, it has to be the same radio it goes on. It won't go on a VHF version of the radio. It has to be the same model number and the same frequency band as well. Next one, we'll go down to General tab. This is where you have your radio alias. This is the name of your radio, and we also have your radio ID. The radio alias doesn't really matter because this radio doesn't have a screen. You're never going to see the radio alias, and even if it does have a screen, you have to go through tons of settings just to see what the radio alias is. So it's pretty pointless, to be honest. It's quite handy in some senses because you can name the radio after someone if it's got a screen, and then you can go to settings and go to ID. It'll then tell you device information. It'll then tell you what the alias is. The other option is radio ID. So the rule of thumb is, if we're programming radios, Every radio will have a different ID for that customer. So if you're buying 10 radios from me, I'll give them IDs 1 to 10. You don't really need it if you're not using a repeater network, but it's just good practice, because that means if it ever does go into a network or whatever, it works better. And if you're ever using radios with display, it enables you to use private call features where you can select that person in the contacts and call them. If they were all on radio ID 1, your private calls wouldn't really work. Next one, if you scroll down, just gonna have a look at your power options. Where are we? There's your power options there. So you can actually set your low power and high power settings. It's up to you what you want to set them as, based on your Ofcom license, may I add. You just can't crack on and adjust to whatever you want. Another thing we'll go through here at the bottom is these: validation, warnings, search results, and help. So when we went to help here, we had it pop up on the screen. You can actually have it on the bottom, and then you can adjust this as you want. And then if you're insuring anything, you can just click on there. Let's pin that in. Pins it into that. Now any option I want to go over, if I don't know what a site search timer is, it'll tell me there. I can read the basic information. It'll tell you the defaults, what increments it is. It'll also tell you if it works in digital mode or analog mode. You can also go down here and get certain tabs which are in it, which will bump you up and down the actual menu. You know, if you want to adjust your battery settings and save batteries, it tells you the options, alerts. Yeah, password and locks. One of the best advantages of CPS2 is it allows you and gives you the ability to add, change and remove radio channels, frequencies, radio IDs, talk groups, scan lists, time slots, colour codes, and you can also adjust the power and button settings on your radio, as well as a lot of other features. What we're going to do now is look at channels, how to create or edit a channel. We've opened up a code plug which we had before. If you want to find your channels, you go down to zone. A zone is basically a group of channels. If you have like the old DP4400E, it allowed you to have 32 channels, even though there wasn't a display. You'd have the channel knob at the top, which would tell you that you've got 16 channels. You would then push the button on the side. You could then flip to zone 2 and have another 16 channels. You'll get some radios out there which do over 1,000 channels now, and what you'll do is you'll break them down into zones, so you could have them for different projects or different companies you work with that radio, as long as obviously you've got your frequency licensing. We used to have it in the Middle East. We used to have teams, guys which were on different teams, so you could flick between your security teams. Like zone 1 would be set 1, zone 2 would be set 2, and they would have different frequencies. And it's just a quick swap instead of having to reprogram the radios. So we go to zones, double click on there. What you'll find here as standard is it comes with this default 2 channels. It has an analog and a digital one. The analog has the sine wave, the digital has the 1s and 0s in the square wave. The advantage of analog and digital, this is what people talk about a lot of the time. Analog, even if it's a weak signal, you can still pick up the signal, and people claim that you used to be able to have better range with it. Even if it's a weak signal, you'll find it. The best example is if you have a digital radio in your car, and if you go under a tunnel, as soon as it drops its signal, the digital will cut out straight away because it's either on or it's off. The analog, it'll be gradual. The further you go in the tunnel, it'll get weaker and weaker, then it'll eventually go, opposed to just being on and off. However, digital allows you to have a lot more features. If we just quickly look at this slide I've done, if you picture the easiest way is a pipe. So if we look at the analog, if it's one frequency, the only way of separating that frequency is using PL tones or DPL tones or TPL tones. Basically what you're doing is you're adjusting the end of the frequency by a couple of hertz. The reality is if them radios are close together and you're using that one frequency, you'll be able to pick up the other person. It's alright if there's a bit of distance, the squelch won't lift and you won't hear the other person, but if you're within 20 meters, you'll pick them up. So you're not really getting much separation on your frequencies. So if you wanted 5 channels originally, really you're going to need 5 different frequencies. The difference is with digital, it uses time division multiple access. It takes the one frequency and it allows it to have 2 time slots. The time slots means is you can have one client on one radio, or one channel on one time slot, sorry, and another channel on the second time slot. So in theory, you're getting 2 channels for that one frequency. However, because it's digital, it allows you to separate it further by adding different talk groups, receive groups, and different colour codes. And what it basically enables you to do is, unless you're receiving that talk group or that colour code, the squelch on the radio won't lift, so you won't hear that person. So for instance, when we do schools, they want to have an emergency feature when they can flick to one channel and talk to everybody at the same time, but then they want them to have 5 separate channels as well. So what we do is we'll have channels 1 to 5 on different receive groups, and we'll go through that in a second. And then channel 6 would have everybody in the same receive group. That means if you go to channel 6, you can then talk to anybody else on any other channel and tell them it's emergency. So we're back to the channels, which can be found in the zone tab. What we're going to do now is I'm going to give you an example of what we do for schools. We're going to create 3 channels, and then which can talk independently to each other, and then a 4th channel which, if there's an emergency, can talk to any of the other 3 channels. This basically uses one frequency, but it's using different talk groups and receive groups. So you'll see here you've got the 2 analog and digital. That's analog with a wave, that's digital. What I've just discovered is, I'll tell you what used to happen is, we'll add a digital channel, you go to the plus sign, select a digital. When I was making this video 10 minutes ago, what we used to do is we used to create one channel. You could then right click on here. I'll show you quickly. I'm going to go through this in a second, but I'll just show you the example. Alright. Notice I put the frequencies on 140. We'll come back to this in a sec, but I just want to show you what we used to be able to do quickly. We used to be able to create a channel, all the default settings, select copy, select paste, and it would paste everything, and then we just had to change a couple of settings. However, what I've noticed is when I do this on CPS2 on this version, it's not changing the frequencies. You see the 140 and the 136, so we have to do it another way. What we're going to do is delete this channel here. We're going to create the channels, and then we're going to add multiple sets of that channel. That's how we're going to do it to speed it up. So we'll go to digital, select the channel. First of all, we've got the channel name it whatever you want to name it. We've then got the colour code. Unless it's on the same colour code, it won't be able to receive the other radio. Just see it as like a different network. Time slots. You can select the time slot you want. So for instance, I could create all these channels now for one company or for one team. I could then turn around and copy and paste them all, change the time slot to 2, and they'll never be able to talk to each other. Yeah. Scrolling down, we've got the frequencies. The key one here is don't type your frequency into both transmit and receive. Because what normally happens is you make an error, you program the radio, you go off, you test it, and you discover that you've mistyped and the 5's round the wrong way to the 2 or whatever on the frequency you've chose. So what we're going to do is just examples of frequencies. Obviously you type in whatever your Ofcom license is. On this example we're going to use 140. So I'll type in 140 as you saw a minute ago. And then I'll hit copy. Right, 2 seconds, I'll get that back. I'll put that to 160. That's it. So select the one I want to copy. Yeah, hit copy. It now changes that to 140. So that saves me making that mistake. The next one, important ones, are group list and contact name. Before I do anything else, I always make sure I edit these. And I make sure I create them. Otherwise, if I copy and paste this channel and I haven't done list 2, list 3, which I'm going to show you how to do in a second, it'll just come up as default, and the chances are you'll miss one of the drop downs and the radio won't work properly. So we're going to do these 2 in a second. The next one I always do is allow interruptions. TX allow interruptible frequencies as well. Admit criteria, all the red ones are for analog, all the black ones, so they're unavailable, all the black ones are for digital. This is like your squelch, or when you want to lift the silence so your radio can receive. If you have it on channel free or colour code free, if someone's on a similar well, if someone's on that frequency and working within a certain area of you, your radio might pick that up, and what will happen is your radio won't be able to transmit until it basically hears silence, and it goes, all right, now it's my time, I can transmit. The issue you've got is if you have an emergency or whatever, you can be sitting there trying to transmit, or a busy network where you have tons of users and no one can ever transmit to each other because they're all waiting for the channel to be free or the colour code to be free. I always set it to always. That means no matter what, this radio will transmit. And if there's two people, you know, wanting to transmit at the same time, the first person who transmits, you know what I mean, they'll get heard by the other people. If it's a different channel, the odds of them ever transmitting at the same time are quite slim, but it gives you that option. If you've got two departments, one on channel 1, one on channel 2, they can still transmit and speak to the other people, as long as the other radio receives it and isn't blocked by the frequencies. So we always leave that on always. Yeah, power level, you can set to high and low. Yeah, depending on your settings on your radio. Go to general settings, you can adjust the power output. Obviously make sure the power output matches your Ofcom license. So there's your power settings. Quickly we'll go to general. Go to general settings. Yeah, scroll down here, it's got your power output. So our TX high power and low power are currently set at 27.5 watts. So if you wanted your TX power to be a lot less or a lot higher, you know what I mean? Let's go. Obviously this radio was used in the Middle East. Yeah, let's go 45. Is that why it's giving me a red one? Oh, sorry, I've done it the wrong way around. Low power, high power. So we'll do 25 on that one. We'll do 50 on that one. It all depends on the settings of your radio. Yeah, so that's what we selected. So if we select low power, it's going to transmit on 25 watts on this example. If we select high power, it's going to transmit on 50 watts. If we go to general settings, or device info even, it will tell us what the power range is of the radio. Yeah, but the most important thing is this has to match your Ofcom. Whatever your Ofcom is, select your power output to that. Yeah. So a high power radio, by the way, Motorola will actually do up to 54. But obviously the higher power you've got and the more it transmits, the more chance you've got of blowing the transmitter. So we'll go back to the channel again. So I'll come back down to here, hit the edit button. Yeah. Down on the bottom, if you want to get to the bottom quick, just hit the RxTX, it'll fly down to the bottom for you. Select the power. Yeah. Next one is we've got the setting of how long it's going to actually transmit for. Like I said before, any issues with you don't know what something is, just simply scroll down. Scroll up, there it is, timeout timer. Yeah, you can get rid of that if you want. It basically means if that radio gets knocked or the pressel gets pressed down, it'll transmit continuously for 60 seconds, then it'll stop transmitting. It's designed to prevent the radio from burning out. It also stops someone, like I said, sitting down on the radio, hitting the transmit button, and stopping you from using your network because someone's accidentally transmitting, which happens quite a bit, to be honest. So what we do is we can either adjust that setting or you can increase that setting. I normally leave it at 60. Worst case scenario, that's 60 seconds of someone talking on the network. Yeah, and at 60 seconds there's very little chance of the transmitter actually blowing. A lot of people now, or I know a lot of people who actually use these radios to transmit or broadcast stuff on. The problem you've got is the radio's not actually designed to do that. It's designed to have short bursts of talk. That's how the battery's designed to work as well. So if you have this and you're going to do, you know, broadcast a conversation or a prayer or whatever for a couple of hours, or sorry, 10-20 minutes, the chances are you're going to damage your radio doing that. So what we do is we always leave it to 60 seconds. You can reduce it if you want. I know some people do 15, 30 seconds. But remember, if you're sending a long message or whatever, if you're set that to 15 seconds and you're sending important information, and by the 15th second it's going to turn off and you're going to still keep talking thinking I'm sending this message, and you're not, it's been cut off. Yeah. So high power, 60 seconds. Tick these boxes, always and always in call criteria. Yeah. We always have it where it can transmit, always. It's the same. This is where you want to turn around and be able to reply or whatever. You want everything set to always, because at the end of the day, if you want to use this radio, you use your, you know, how you operate the radio properly. You don't want the settings to dictate, because if an emergency does occur, you can't then transmit on it. So the next one we're going to do is, we've got all the settings here, we're happy with them. We're going to do, we named it channel 1, the colour code's 1, the time slot's 1, we're looking at group list, contact names. I always create these first before I start creating other channels, otherwise it'll just be an issue when you copy and paste later. It won't have the setting and you'll have to manually enter it. So if you go down to the contact list, this is the list of contacts. We normally have, so for instance, it comes with call 1 as standard, call ID is 1. So whatever your call ID is for that group, that's what each radio needs in that radio in order to work. So we'll keep it simple. We're going to do channel 1, group 1, list 1. Yeah. So group 1, rename it. Keep the ID as simple. We'll call it 100 as the ID. Yeah. Ignore the capacity plus thing. Next one is create new set. Come here. Digital group call this group 2. Keep it simple again. 200. I don't want to use 2000 and 1000s. I don't know why I'm using that, but there we go. Yeah. Next one, add another one. Digital group call group 3. Group 3, do 300. Yeah. Group 1, group 2. See group 2, group 3. Next one I'm going to do is, let me get rid of this. Right, I'll leave that for now, otherwise it's going to give me a ton of warnings. Right, so there's your group 1, group 2, group 3. We're going to add the last one. Come on. Digital channel, group call, group 4. We'll do 4 channels and a 5th. That's what we do. That's what I normally do, to be honest. 400. Yeah. Contacts. One more. Digital. Group call again. I know there's an all call feature, but we're just going to. I always set this up as all call, to be honest. And cancel the last one. Don't need to do it because it's actually in the radio. 2 seconds. So we've got group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. Now we've got the receive groups. So for instance, receive group 1 can only hear group 1. That means your radio will only lift when it hears group 1. What we're going to do is create some more receive groups. Yeah, list 2, we'll add group 2 to. Yeah. List 3, we'll add group 3 to. Group 4. Yeah. And now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new list. I'm going to call this all call or emergency. Yeah, emergency list. And what we're going to do is we're going to add all of them. This basically means any channel with these groups in can then talk to all the other channels as long as they're using the same frequency. So we've got a 4, which are going to be a 4 channels or 4 groups. We've then got a 4 lists, and a 5th list is the emergency list, which has them all in. Yeah, just a quick recap. List 2, list 3, list 4, emergency list, group 4. Now what we're going to do is go back to the channel, go to edit the digital one. Yeah, and you'll see here this is on group 1, list 1, group 1. So we're happy with all the configurations, everything we've gone through so far. Yeah, what I'm going to do is go back to zone. Go here. Yeah, now what we're going to do is select this and we're going to copy it. So add multiple settings, multiple sets, cancel, add copies. We're going to select the number of channels we need, so we need 5 in total, so we're going to do 4 more. Now what will happen is it'll add the channels, yeah, and if you scroll down this time you'll see, where are we? It's copied the frequencies this time, yeah, unlike before. Please note the position number, whatever the position number is, if your radio has a thumb turn channel knob, whatever the number is, that's what it's going to turn up. So at the moment you could say to someone, right, go talk on channel 2, but actually they're going to talk on the analog. So what we're going to do is move that down. That's at the bottom. We'll rename these quickly. Channel 2. Channel 2. Right, my LCD's kicked in, let's name them properly. Put a space in them. L4. Call this emergency. Yeah. And then if the radio has a display, it would then display the channel names on it. Even if it doesn't have a display, I'll always enter, if I'm using two different radios, like one radio has a display and the other one doesn't, I'll make sure the channel names are the same. Otherwise what's going to end up happening is you won't know, you'll get confused and you have to check all the frequencies every time you're comparing two radios together instead of going, well actually that's that. Yeah. So all we're going to do now is edit this channel. So we go to channel 2, scroll down to the bottom, select number 2, select group 2. Yeah. Another way of doing it is to scroll across and do it, which I might do. So go here. 3, yeah, it'll be easier doing it this way. 4, 5th one's going to be the emergency. That's your receive group, remember? Where are we? Oh, come on, where are you? And what we're trying to look for is the contact. Right, there's the receive. Ah, here we are. So group 1, so transmit contact name. Group 3, 4. What I should have done is add an emergency one just to make sure there's no confusion. So we'll go back to here. Alright, we're going to add one more group 1. Digital. This is just for my own processing. 500. Call it emergency. Yeah, that's the 500 on the list. We're going to add that one. Now what we're going to do is, just to make sure it definitely works, is add this group into the others. Because it's the transmit contact name, if it's not in the receive group, it may not work. So the easiest option is just adding that one to each one. See it? Now sat there. Yeah, that's it there. Now we'll go back to your channels again. And we'll scroll across. Emergency list, that's all in order. Group 4 emergency. Right, so that's it all set up. So now when we program this radio will have 5 digital channels, 1 analog channel. The first 4 channels will only be will speak to each other. So channel 1 will speak to channel 1, but won't hear 2, 3, 4. Yeah. They all work independent. You can name them different departments if you want, you know what I mean. If it's a school, you can have the janitor, or, you know what I mean, reception, or PE, whatever you want to name them as. And then the fifth one is the emergency one, which will be able to talk to all of them and hear all of them, yeah, at the same time. What normally happens is, in an emergency, you just come up on the emergency channel, tell everybody to switch to that channel, and then that way everybody can hear everyone. Otherwise, other people won't hear people talking back. So if channel 4 wouldn't hear someone talking back on channel 1 because it doesn't have the, you know, the talk group on it. Yeah. So I'm just going to go back to this layout first, check it all. So channel 4, colour code 1, repeater slot 1. There's the frequency we're using for all the channels. So we're actually getting 5 channels out of one frequency. There's the receive group for this channel, which is group 4, which is contact names group 4. Power level, always, always. That'll enable you to have 5 channels on your radio, and then the emergency channel on channel 5. Hope this helps. If you got any questions, just leave us a comment down below, and please make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you. Hi guys, let's look at analog channels using the same template we had before. So all I'm going to do here is, we've got the analog channel on channel 6 at the moment. We're going to make a couple of these. Let's go to the edit tab. As I mentioned before, there's not many ways of separating the old analog frequencies. This is your squelch time, which is you select. Most people use DPL, to be honest. All we're going to do is enter the frequency, enter the DPL code. Yeah. Make sure you check the time for the transmission. Make sure you check the power level. Admit criteria again. Make sure it's on always. Yeah. That way you're not restricting your radio from being used, especially when if you're going to be using this for work, or because it's important and you need to talk to someone. The last thing you want to do is limit it by putting a filter on it. Yeah. So your admit criteria, always have it as always. Yeah. Your squelch time will mean it won't lift until, if there's enough distance, it won't lift until this DPL tone's received. Yeah. Let's try copying it. Let's see if it copies the settings across. Yeah. So it now copies the DPL and the actual DPL code, which is quite handy. Yeah. Obviously your channel name, channel bandwidth. Make sure you have a look at your Ofcom license. Make sure you've got the correct channel bandwidth. Most of the time it's 12.5, to be honest, or 25. But it allows you to give you the different options. Yeah. So we've created one channel. We're going to create another 3 channels, but what we want to do is we want to keep the DPL tones the same, and we're just going to have a different frequency for each different channel. So we'll go back to zone. We've got the channel there. Let's copy it. Add copies. Let's do 2 more channels on top of that, so we'll have 3 analog at the end of it. Yeah. Let's rename them. Channel 2 analog. Channel 3. Now remember, if your radio doesn't have a display, you won't see this. You'll just see the position number on the radio. Yeah. So we want to keep all the settings the same. Let's go in. Second frequency is 137, as on this example. We're going to copy it, because that way we know we've definitely put the same frequency across. Yeah. Go back again. And the last one, I'll do 138. Another example of a frequency. Make sure you match your Ofcom. Copy it across again. Yeah, that's that done. So we now have 5 digital channels, 3 analog channels. Yeah. we're happy with the radio, we're happy with the settings of what we've done so far. Now to send it back to the radio, if I am sending this code plug back to the same radio which I got the code plug from, i.e. on device information, the serial numbers match, I have to write the radio back. If it's to another radio, I have to clone the radio. If I want to do private calls on the radio, if it's got a screen, I would add a contact. Here's an example, I'll add a contact. Yeah, we'll call it private call, do OK. Do number 1, we'll call this Bob. And what would happen is, if we want to speak to Bob, we would go into the address book on a display radio. We'll find the call ID 1. Let's name it 10 for example. Yeah, so when we program Bob's radio, we would in his general settings, we would add his ID to 10. That means Bob's radio is 10. We do a private call to Bob, it's 10. The beauty of digital radios, by the way, as well, if you do a private call, it's between the two individuals or the two radios. If you do a group call, it's between the group. If you do an all call, it's between all of you. It allows separation. It also enables you to have a private call with someone so no one else can hear it, unless they've obviously got a scanner and all that stuff. But the idea is your bog standard group 1 wouldn't hear your private call at all. It'd just be between myself and Bob, or Bob and I, shall I say. Yeah, next one's clone. When we clone the radios, so if the radios don't match the serial numbers, we'd then hit clone, and we'd make sure we change every radio as a different ID. So if there's 10 radios going to a customer, I normally would add the contacts, to be fair, with the job title. So that way, if there ever is a display radio, we already have it set up and we can actually copy and paste settings across. So 10 radios, so radio 1 would be ID 1, radio 9 would be 9, 10 would be 10. Obviously Bob's 10 because we've added Bob to the address book here. Yeah. And then Clone Express, what that does is it allows you to copy to multiple radios at any one time. And what it'll do is it'll leave the ID off, so you would have to add the ID afterwards, or the ID is already on the radio from a previous programming. Yeah. So I hope that helps. Any questions, or if you need more information, please leave a comment and we'll get back to you in the comments below. And please make sure you subscribe. Thanks. What we're going to talk about now is the privacy settings and the feature settings as well. We'll go through features first. If you're unsure of what your radio has, connect your radio up. Hit the read button at the top, go to configuration. It'll then tell you what features your radio has, what's enabled and what you can actually purchase. To purchase, visit a site, type in whatever you want to do, text to speech. We'll then basically send you a code. You would then register the code and activate it to that one particular radio. You require an upgrade license for every single radio. You can't just buy one text-to-speech license and program 20 radios. It doesn't work that way. They've done it where they're more pushing towards software-based stuff now. So if you want 20 text-to-speech, you're going to have to buy 20 text-to-speech licenses. If we go back to the radio, we'll talk about privacy. So on your radios, I'll just show you a channel. There's different privacy settings with the radios depending on what entry-level radio they are or what they are. So for instance, prime example would used to be most entry-level radios had basic privacy, or what I call is encryption. You then bought the 4000 series that had enhanced encryption, which was basically 40-bit. So basic was classed as 8-bit, enhanced was 40-bit, and then if you were working for a government or a military contract, you could then apply for AES encryption, which was 256-bit encryption, which requires a separate license and quite a few bits of paperwork. So you just, Joe Blogs can't just get AES encryption. You have to be a government or working with a government to get it. So we'll go down here. You'll see as we scroll down, it'll have their privacy key. You can select if you want a privacy key activated or not. You can select it for different channels as well. So you've had 6 different privacy keys. You could have channel 1 on privacy key 1, channel 2 on privacy key 2. It doesn't really matter if all the radios are the same, because if you lose the radio, it doesn't matter. You might as well just use the same privacy key, because what's going to separate it is the talk groups and the frequencies anyway. The privacy key just stops people listening in with a scanner, unless it's a sophisticated scanner. So we'll go up to privacy again, which you'll find in the general tab. Go to security. So basic one, as you see there, put 0, leave it blank. You can enter a code if you want, any numbers range between 0 and 255. It would then make sure that radio has a basic form of privacy. The next one is enhanced. Enhanced encryption is what we used a lot in the Middle East. A lot of the radios, I used to sell the 4000, I keep going on about the 4000 radio, which has now been replaced with the R7s. But they were outstanding, brilliant radios, and the security aspect of them, they were amazing. So here's your privacy key here. You then enter your key value, which is between a certain number. You could choose anything you want. Yeah. There's your key value there. That basically means if you don't have that key, you're not going to be able to listen to that other person speaking on that radio, on that channel, if the privacy is selected. You can have channels where you don't use the privacy key, you know, for emergency, but you can have certain channels where you add the privacy key feature as well. It's a brilliant feature to have. If I was to read this radio after I program it, if I had to read this code plug back out of the radio, this would be blanked out. So for security reasons, you still wouldn't know what the key value is. So please make sure you know what your key value is, because you can't just read a radio then guess what it is. Yeah. So we've added one key there. We've added enhanced there. I would now to introduce it. I go back to the channel. Yeah. Select the channel I want to add the privacy key to. Scroll down. There you are there. Select the privacy key. There's only one privacy key, so we select privacy key. If we don't want a privacy key on it, untick it or select none. Yeah. That means on channel 1 now, when we transmit and talk, you require that privacy key in order to listen to the radio and talk back to them. Yeah. If not, there you go. So we'll go back to here. Like I said, you can create as many privacy keys as you want. The idea is keep it simple, then that way when you start having faults and errors, you can find them easier. If you create a million different settings, you're just going to end up, you know, chasing your tail all the time. Yeah. And what else is there? We'll go through emergency feature of the button. Another great feature we used to do is we used to install emergency alarms on the 4000 series. To do that, go to the Systems tab, go down to Digital Systems, and you can change the name of this. We used to just keep it simple. We'd always use something we can, you know, understand when someone else opens the code plug. So your system name is emergency. Like I said before, you've got the options here of the help button. It'll go through what each different setting is. So for instance, the regular one is it would do alarm signal and provide audio and visual. It was quite good. The only problem is when the alarm went off, we used to do like panic alarm tests between all the teams. But if you've got one alarm going off and there's 30 vehicles, they're all going to receive that alarm. But then the audio follows. The next one's silent, so it transmits an alarm but no audio or visual indications given on that radio itself. Yeah, and the next one's silent with, you know, with voice. The beauty of the alarm thing is you can hold the button down and then it's going to start doing whatever settings you've chose here and transmitting. So if you're in an emergency, you can't talk, for instance, if you're working in a hostile environment or whatever, you can hit the button, it'll then last for a certain amount of seconds and you can talk into that, knowing all the other radios around will be hearing it, and it'll be notifying on the radio. It'll tell you what radio's been, you know, hit the emergency button, and you'll be able to hear the actual individuals talking without them having to find or press the transmitter. It'll also try a certain amount of times. So if it doesn't get through because you've chose channel 3 only, you know what I mean, and you don't have any of the breakthrough ticks on your channel options, you transmit always and stuff like that, it'll keep trying and trying. So what you want to do is you can adjust and set these settings. It's easy enough. If you accidentally press the alarm button, all you do is press it again, it'll cancel it. And then what happens with other users are they press the emergency button to cancel it, or they turn the radio on and off. If they hold down the emergency button, it all depends on your button configurations, but if they hold down the emergency button, what normally then happens is they end up triggering the alarm and you'll have a chain reaction of people hitting the button. Yeah. So here's your settings here. You can select emergency alarm, emergency with call, emergency with voice to follow. Yeah, disabled. There's so many. I can't. It's so brilliant. This, it's unreal. To be fair, you can then select what channel you know, what contact name you want to transmit on. So you could set it to emergency, which would then transmit on all them different channels, because you're part of that group. What normally happens is whatever channel you're on, that's what the emergency would go to. Yeah. So if you're on group 1, on channel 1, you would normally set the alarm would go over channel 1. However, if you had the emergency group in the receive group, which we've already done, that would then also show up in group 2, 3, 4. That's why it's an advantage of adding that receive group and adding all the users to the emergency one. Then all you would do is, once you've created your emergency code, oh sorry, cancel. What we're going to do is, you go to the buttons to make sure the buttons are configured. Otherwise the question is, how do you actually activate it? So go to control buttons. It'll tell you on the radios. If you're not using the buttons on the radio, just change them to unassigned. Otherwise what you have is people sat there bored and they start pushing all the buttons. You can have it, some of the radios, if we look at configuration, where's that, file, reports, you normally get a picture of the actual radio. So if you look here, P4 actually has a red button on it. So what we normally do is we'll configure, we'll configure that to be the emergency button. On the handsets, it normally has an orange button on them, so you normally configure that one. So we'll close that. Go back to control buttons. P4 is going to be the emergency. Yeah. Emergency on, we'll do is a short press. That way if they just press it by accident, nothing's going to happen. Sorry, emergency off. And emergency on, sorry, emergency on will be a long press. The reason we do that is it makes sure that, you know, no one accidentally presses it. What I normally do as well is I will increase the long press time. 3,000 milliseconds is about 3 seconds. So that's what we normally do. So then that way we can turn around and push the button, hold the button down, it'll then activate. If someone's just tapping away at the radio because the board's sat in the car, or you know, in your work, they're sat down, you know, just scrolling through the radio, that way they're not going to activate everybody's radio and turn the microphone on theirs. You can also do it with the accessory ports as well. You can configure it depending on what accessory you want to use. Hope that helps. Remember, once you finish, write it back to the radio if it's the same serial number on the code plug, clone it back to another radio if it's different, and make sure every radio has its own unique radio ID. That way, when you push the button, it will come up. So if Bob pushes the button on his radio, it will show up on everybody's radio with a display that Bob's pushed the button. Got any further questions, please put them in the comments. We'll get back to you shortly.